Shantanu Dahiya. Welcome to the channel Kahani's Golden Bytes. Thank you for taking your time to be on the channel.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. I'm really glad that you've invited me to your show.
Thank you, Shantanu, once again. So, Shantanu, for the benefit of our viewers, could you, please give a little background about, what you're doing currently or something like that?
Sure. So I am a software engineer. I used to be a software engineer. I have done my BTech in computer science from IIT Delhi, and I worked in industry for about 3 years as a software engineer. And now I'm continuing my education and doing my master's in computer science at NYU in New York.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is this online, Shantanu? I mean, are you because the physical classes have they?
No, actually, I'm going to physical classes now. I think all of my classes are physical, in person this time. Yes.
Okay. Oh, okay. So you're back in New York right now, and that's where the classes are going. Okay.
Yes.
So Shantanu, you worked also for some time, and you before that you were in IIT Delhi. So
Right.
so IIT Delhi, that's a tough exam, if I may just be make an understatement here, to clear that kind of an exam. So so you would have really studied extremely hard to clear an exam like that, Shantanu.
Right. It's definitely a tough paper, and I used to go for these IIT coaching classes, and yeah, I was always a good student in maths, and so the subjects that they test there, physics, chemistry, and math. I was not that great at chemistry, but physics and math were good subjects of mine. So chemistry is something that I had to study more, to bring myself up to par on that. But yeah, it was definitely like a challenging thing to do. But and also luck plays a big role, I think, because you don't really know what they're going to ask you once you actually go for the exam. So what some students find is that their strong areas are asked a little more questions from their strong areas, and they tend to do a little bit better. But yeah, that's more or less how it went.
Uh, You're underplaying your success a little bit there, but
Not really.
but Shantanu, so which really means that you were what comes out very clearly is that you're academically absolutely brilliant. You're at NYU, IIT Delhi, so which means that did you have any time at all for anything? There's nothing wrong with it, but beyond academics, while in school, Shantanu, did you?
Yeah, I mean, the pressure for the IIT exam sort of ramps up when you're in 11th and 12th. So at that time, I was definitely spending a lot more time studying. I was also going for these coaching classes, and then I had to revise and all of that. So at that point, I had somewhat less time for other hobby activities, but I still did some things. I was always into music, so I used to I would always I didn't play any instruments when I was in school, but I used to listen to a lot of music. I was never like a big movie guy, but I used to read fiction novels, stuff like that. And I was into watching cricket and tennis. Yeah.
Lovely. So Shantanu, you listened to a lot of music during your school days. You didn't play in any instrument
Yes.
during that time. So Shantanu, I need to at this point in time just bring it up to the viewers how I use the word discovered you, or
Right.
came across you. So
Very interesting story.
yes, very interesting. So as I shared with you, I'm a life member at the Delhi School of Music, and I was watching one of their live concerts, which was online. And I love any form of music, any form in any style. I just love it. And I was watching these students perform different instruments, and here I come across somebody who's named Shantanu Dahiya, who's playing. It was a Western classical piece on the guitar by Francisco Terega, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I said, this is something, there's something about, the student here. And I said, who is the student? I was trying to figure out more because all I had was your name. That's it.
Right.
And after many months, I just noted down your name. I said, I'd love to, get to speak to Shantanu Dahiya on this channel. Few months later, I happened to, I came to know that you're from IIT Delhi. And I said, wow, this is even more interesting. So
Mm-hmm.
tell me your journey. You didn't play an instrument in school, and
Right.
here you are performing one of the most complicated and well-known pieces of Francisco Torrega. Tell me, how did that journey happen?
Right. Yeah. It is pretty interesting. I so I probably I never thought that I would be playing classical guitar, and then I would be playing pieces like that. But so how it happened was, well, to begin with, I always wanted to learn um, the guitar, or I think the guitar mainly. But if that was like the instrument of opportunity for me, instead of me going out seeking it out, it was actually my brother, my younger brother, who actually started learning guitar, and it was like an optional subject that he had in his school. So he went out, he bought an acoustic, and he used to play on it. So I thought, well, since we do have a guitar at home now, I should also, because I was also interested in learning. So I started learning online, and my brother was, of course, he had some classes in school, but I didn't have any classes. So I used to just go online and see how, what resources are available online to learn the guitar. And there were a couple of really good websites and YouTube tutorials and stuff that I found, which I used to learn the music that I like, which is mostly like classic rock. So that's how I started out, and I got to, I think, a pretty decent intermediate sort of level playing the guitar over around maybe 7 8 years that I was not playing it very regularly, but whenever I wanted to just blow off steam and just like have a good time, relax, I used to play that. And then what happened is, I don't exactly remember what motivated me to apply to the Delhi School of Music. I don't think that it was I already had classical guitar in mind at that point. I think what I wanted to do was just learn more music theory, because I felt like I had sort of plateaued in my guitar sort of journey in learning guitar, because I really didn't think I was getting any better at it for a few years. So I thought maybe the next step is to learn theory and to understand how music is structured and how to interpret music. Um, and also maybe learn scales and stuff like, because when you just do it at home, you don't have a teacher telling you that you have to practice these scales, you have to practice these arpeggios and so forth. So what you end up doing is just playing the pieces or the music that you know again and again, and that helps you get better, but it doesn't really iron out all the chunky pieces and all the weak areas that you have, so that you play more smoothly. So anyway, so I thought taking formal classes would make me better at the guitar. And when I started filling out the form, I noticed that they have two options, and you can either go for pop guitar or for classical guitar. And then I remembered that, I had a very close, good friend of mine in school called Saurav, and he used to play the classical guitar. He used to take classes at Delhi School of Music. And another batchmate of mine from school, who was actually the head boy, kind of called Anshuman, he also used to play it. And he was like grade 8, so he was very good. And once he had even given a performance in the amphitheater in our school. So I really liked that. So yeah, so all that came back to me when I saw that on the form that they had. So and then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go for this if I get it, because I also thought that because it's classical and it's rigorous, I'm also going to learn a lot more than, I've already done pop guitar for the most part by myself. So classical probably was going to improve my technique more than if I just do pop guitar again. So that was how I started out with classical guitar.
Wow. And so, Shantanu, when did you start learning the classical guitar? I mean, this was what, when you
Yeah,
were
I think
IIT or when you were working, or when was this? I mean, at what
I
stage?
I I believe it was 2019.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it was 2019 that I
Is when you started
started.
learning. Is when you,
Yes,
and we've just crossed into 2022.
right.
That's just about 2 years, and your playing is exceptional. I'm going to put a link of your YouTube channel down below so that some of the viewers can take a look at that. It was a discovery for me. I didn't know you had a YouTube channel.
Yeah,
You're
that came up in
exceptional.
our first discussion.
Yeah, exceptional. You play so well. The tremolo, which is really hard,
Thank you.
really hard.
Yeah, it is
And
pretty hard,
mm,
the tremolo, but I think I'm sort of perhaps naturally gifted at that, or maybe it's because I actually spent 1 year learning the tabla when I was in class 7. So in tabla you do some stuff like that. So maybe that's where it comes from, or maybe I don't know, maybe some people are more predisposed to learning it more quickly. But
fantastic.
I always found that the tremolo actually came pretty easily to me, but there were a lot of other students that I know who were having a lot of trouble with that.
Mm. And from your YouTube channel, I also discovered that you took part in some open category at some international music competition too.
Yeah. So my guitar teacher was encouraging his students, including me, to take part in that because it was so classical guitar is actually like, this is how you advance in the field. That there are all these guitar competitions, and the more you take part in, the better you do at them. If you win prizes, you sort of get on the radar, on the map, if you're a professional classical guitarist. So, and I thought, I mean, that was not the reason, because I never wanted to become a professional, but I wanted to challenge myself, and to, once you enter a competition, you have to prepare the piece to a pretty decent level before it actually happens.
Mm.
So that was like a motivator for me to quickly pick up and become really good at some of the pieces that I was doing.
Fantastic. I'm reminded of one of India's celebrated scientists, head of the nuclear program once upon a time, Dr. Raja Ramanan.
Mm-hmm.
He was, along with his name, he had PhD written, which people knew what that stood for. He also had LRSM, which was licentiate from the Royal School of Music. He was a pianist.
Okay.
And he performed internationally too. And
Wow.
and even at his farewell, I recall reading in the newspaper, for his farewell, he actually played a piece, or maybe a couple of them.
Okay.
So it was not something that he just did and forgot, but he
Right.
carried that with him. Here's a scientist of the top level, the country, etc., well known, and here he is playing the piano, across different countries. So I'm reminded when I hear your story, your
Right.
short, brief right now, that here's another person I'm lucky enough to, be chatting with, Shantanu. So Shantanu, what do you have to tell somebody who's, keen on, who might be thinking that, oh, I should have started when I was a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old. This is too complex. You didn't
Mhm.
start at the age of 5 or 10, right? What do you
Right.
tell some of them, Shantanu?
Well, yeah, I think that's a good question. There are a few sort of angles for that. Uh, I would say, there are quite a few examples that you'll find of people who pick up a new skill, and people. It's not just musical. People, I think, have this mindset about pretty much every new thing that you want to learn. That if you have to have started when you were very young. So it's impossible to go back to that age and start then. So either you deprive yourself of it forever, or you go in when you can. That's one way to look at it. Secondly, I think I don't really know if there's like if there is a cap on how good you can be if you start out later, but I feel like um, if you put in that effort, and if you put in um, and if you genuinely enjoy doing something and you spend that time doing it, then you'll still get better, and you'll still if you have a talent for it, you will progress. And sometimes you might progress. Like I found that I was progressing faster than most of my peers when I was doing that. I was quite surprised. I don't really know why that was happening. It's possible that I was, one of the reasons was that I theorize is like I was picking up harder pieces and going after them much more than other people when they were. Most people are kind of they're given the grade piece to do, and they're sort of satisfied just to get good at that one. But I started attacking very complex pieces from the beginning, because that was my whole goal to begin with, to play really good music that I like. So I was like, why should I wait until I'm like, I've already done 5 years and then I start picking them up. So I thought, let me pick them up right from the beginning. Although sometimes there's a downside to it also. Like if you start playing a piece when you have bad technique, then you sort of internalize the technique. And maybe some of that happened with me, but yeah, I mean, I thought it was still worth the risk. And yeah, I guess the last thing is that if you're not, so I'm someone who's not necessarily going to be a professional in classical guitar. So it was a hobby for me. So if you want to do something as a hobby, especially, you should go for it, even regardless of your age, because you don't really have to compete with everyone, and for your bread and butter on that particular thing. What should rather matter is that, do you really enjoy the process? Do you really enjoy that thing? Do you really feel like you would be really happy looking back that you picked this up, and that you're doing this, and that you always wanted to do this? So instead of living with a regret, or living with that feeling that I can't do it, just give it a shot. The worst thing that can happen is you find out that, yeah, you can't really do it, then do something else that you like. But for the most part, you'll find that you will still do well. You'll still do decently well. Sometimes you might find that you are actually very talented at it, and you might do just as well as anyone else. But what really matters is to make the most of what you have. So whatever time you do have in your life, regardless, instead of thinking that I should have done this or that, you should rather do it now and see what happens.
Fantastic. So Shantanu, what I'm also going to do is, at the end of this clip, put a little montage of some of your pieces,
Right.
besides directing them towards your YouTube channel. All the viewers, I'll encourage you all to take a look at Shantanu's YouTube channel. It's fantastic. You'll get to know the magic he does with his fingers, in more detail. Shantanu, you've taken out time with the time zones, etc. Thank you so much for taking your time to be on this channel.
It's my pleasure, absolutely.